Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Om Mani Padme Om. Good morning and welcome to the Sunday service. Obviously, Reverend Shanti isn't here, and so I'll be leading the service. We'll begin with a loving kindness meditation, followed by silent meditation, followed by our Dharma talk by Sailesh, and questions and answers, and then a brief amount of chanting. Subodha, if you'll begin.
Let's get into a comfortable position. Close our eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. And now let's develop thoughts of goodwill, loving kindness, metta, beginning with ourselves. This is a sincere wish, a wholesome desire for our true and lasting happiness. Although we might say these in words out loud or in our hearts, we want to make sure that these are truly felt inside, truly generated, extended outward, beginning with ourselves. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I be free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May I live with a heart and mind unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May I always look after myself with ease. And then we extend our goodwill, our loving kindness to our loved ones, our family, our friends, our mentors, teachers, and guides, those that we love, those that we admire, those that we respect. May they be happy, peaceful, free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they always look after themselves with ease. And then we extend our goodwill, our loving kindness to our acquaintances, those that we like but don't know so well. May they also be happy, peaceful, free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they always look after themselves with ease. And then we extend our loving kindness, our goodwill, to those that we have difficulty getting along with, those that we have difficulty admiring or respecting, even those that may call us enemy. May they also be happy, peaceful, free from stress and pain, free from suffering. May they live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May they look after themselves with ease. And so, in this spirit of admirable friendship with all beings, we extend our goodwill, our loving kindness outward in all directions, in front of us, behind us, to the right and left, above and below, outward into infinity, to all sentient beings everywhere. May we all be happy. May we all be peaceful. May we all be free from stress and pain. free from suffering. May we all live with hearts and minds unburdened by greed, by aversion, by delusion. May we all look after ourselves with ease. And so now, with our hearts and minds uplifted with the metta that we have cultivated, let us now turn our attention to the breath. Ardent, alert, mindful, setting aside greed and distress with reference to the world, we turn our attention to the breath coming in and going out, establishing ourselves somewhere in the body where we feel the breath most easily, becoming well acquainted with the quality of the breathing, whether the breath be long or short, deep or shallow. Allow the body to become relaxed. Allow the breath to become easeful. Establish yourself in that sense of ease. Let it spread around so that you feel as though you are being bathed in the breath, giving yourself a good place for the mind to rest, to settle, so that the mind, finding itself here, being here and now. Let us continue to cultivate our minds in this way, meditating together silently, mindful of our breathing, until we hear the bell.
Sadhu,
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 sadhu.
sadhu. I was hoarding the microphones. Sorry. Our speaker is Sailesh, who's been a great friend for many years of the temple and travels a long distance to be with us. So thank you. And you can begin your talk.
Durangamang ekacarang asarirang kuhasayang yechittang sannimesanti mokhanti marabandhana. Dear Venerable Sirs and friends in Dhamma, I wish you all good morning. And thank you, Subodhi, for leading wonderful loving kindness meditation and also guided meditation. In Buddhist calendar, this is the time that a lot of monks, those who are ordained, observe retreat, the rain retreat season, because if you go to South Asian countries, you get a lot of rains these days. It's a monsoon period. So during that time, Buddha established a tradition that monks are required to, if you have received high ordination, you're required to stay in the same place for 3 months and observe retreat, rain retreat or rainy retreat. And this is a time that where you have opportunity to talk to your fellow friend monks, go to the Buddha and listen to his talks, practice meditation. And I thought to remind that because I've been seeing many of you for several years, and we all are in a journey that is to value our human life and find the best way to improve it every day as it passes, right? And Buddha gave a really good talk, and in Buddhist teaching, human life is valued the most. There's a saying in Dhammapada, Kicho Manusapati Labho. To be born as human is very rare. It's a rare opportunity. Kichang machana jivitang. And the second part is not just to be born as humans, but also live as a human being. It's harder, it's rarer. And during that time, kichasa dhamma savanang, getting an opportunity to listen to a teaching of the Buddha is more rare. It becomes harder. If you look at ourselves, we spend most of our days doing many things, having a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of tasks. And in the meditation, during meditation, Subodhi mentioned that trying not to get distracted by fantasies, stress, many things. And that's how our days are spent. And listening to Dhamma is one way to, it's a therapy. I would consider it's a therapy because you want to clarify what's going on, and sometimes it can have some physical cost. So if you are dealing with a lot of stress, it can affect your well-being. It's not just mind, but also body can be affected. And that's why we try to gather once a week, if possible, if not then once a month, and talk about what did Buddha teach to make our life better. And one of the sayings that I mentioned is from the Dhammapada, the collection of Buddha's brief teachings in the Chittavagga, where it talks about Durangamang Ekacharang. So Buddhism is unique from other religion because it's teaching of human mind, right? The psychology part, it makes Buddhism unique from other teachings. Buddhism provides really well-grounded ideas how mind works. And that's a challenge we all deal with. We all know how to manage our health, right? Most of the time, how to regulate your glucose level, cholesterol level, pressure, and sometimes even your temperature, right? We find ways to regulate them, how to keep ourselves healthy, practicing good hygiene for your body, good hygiene for your teeth. So we do all those, but if you really sit down and reflect how many times you practice good hygiene for your mind. Now that doesn't happen that often. We take it for granted, that our mind is a very challenging, phenomenon that we need to take care of. So the Buddha explained this mind can travel really fast. Durangamam. So in Pali it says the mind can travel way faster than anything in the world. Super fast. Now if you've been to do an experiment, you've been to a different country, so I'm from Nepal, so I can in a split second be in my house in Nepal, which takes at least 24 hours to take a flight to get there, right? If you imagine a place, you can immediately take yourself in that place within a split second. It's very fast. Ekacharang doesn't need a company. It can travel by itself. Doesn't require a group of people to travel your mind. And Asarira, it doesn't need a physical body. Mind can travel without a form. And Guhasaya, it lives in a sort of a cave place. And this mind is super fast. It can travel very fast. And that's why we get a lot of ideas. And I mentioned about how we take care of our diet. If you buy a bag of chips or a drink, you see those chips and drinks have certain ingredients and amount of different chemicals or, nutritional facts, right? You read the list, and I'm sure most of you read them before you consume. But how many times you check the nutritional fact of thoughts before you dwell in it? So I'm going to have a strong emotions toward so-and-so. How many times we take a pause and check the nutritional fact of this mind? We don't. And those thoughts can proliferate within a second. There will be so many ideas in a day, and we continue to have them. And to make it simple, to help you remember, it can distort the reality, and that becomes a big challenge, right? So one way to distort reality, the way our mind works, is perceiving things that is unhealthy as healthy. So things that's not helpful as helpful. And perception is very important. And the reason I want to talk about mind is when you think of practicing meditation, learning about Buddhism, we need to be very careful. How do we practice it? Because there's another analogy in Buddhism. If we think of the teaching, it should be considered as a snake. I think we might have talked about it. You may have heard of it. If you hold the snake from its tail, the risk of getting bitten is very high, right? Because the snake can turn and bite you. Same thing with the teaching. And sometimes people do not see that way. They have a wrong view about the teaching itself. And they may have wrong view about life. And when we talked on a phone call with Ratnasar Bante, we talked about suicide. And people dying by suicide, how human life is undervalued. So that's what I thought to bring this, how our mind works. We had this distortion. And Buddha valued human life very much. And when I was driving here, I saw a few men and women on the street. They are born as human. Unfortunately, they lack something to make the best out of this life, right? So human life is precious. And we have this distortion, especially related to human life. If you believe in karma, a lot of people blame karma for something bad to happen, right? If I couldn't study, if I have sickness, if I have some misfortune happen, we blame the karma. And that's a distortion. That's not true about our life. Because if you think, to be born as human, if you have not known, so I want you to know that all the bad karmas, all the karmas that we have done, which is severe, that could be dangerous, has been already eradicated. You cannot be human with those karma. So if you are born as human being, that means you have surpassed, you have overcome all the bad karmas that is related to major sufferings. So that's why your life as human, our life as human, is extremely precious. And sometimes people don't see that way. You blame so-and-so, it's my karma. That's why I have this misfortune happen. Well, you already passed them. What is inevitable is what you do now in this life. That can be, you cannot predict what kind of karma you're going to engage in. So that is up to you. You choose which kind of action to take in, right? That's one thing. The other thing, getting sick. Like a lot of people blame karma and not much in effort. So if you are sick, that is not always because of karma. Sometimes people get illnesses. Sometimes you have like a diabetes early on, genetic diabetes. Sometimes people have neurodevelopmental disorders. They're born with certain conditions. It's not always because of karma. And there's one really important teaching in Girimananda Sutta. Buddha really praised this teaching where there are many factors that makes you sick. One of them is vata samuttana abada. Sometimes the air is not good. So in a sense, right, air could make you sick. Airborne diseases can make you sick. It could be sometime related to a bile system. So it's not balanced, right? And sometimes other people trick you. So opakamika abada. So you get sick because someone else's cause. It's not your karma. It's not always because of karma you get sick. Sometimes the food you take in, that's not karma. That's the food that caused sickness. And there's only 1 out of 8 factors is kamma samuttana abada. That is related to karma. But there are many other factors that makes us sick. There's one factor that is karma. And the other part is how do we avoid it? Now, if you think of effort can change karma. This is a silly story, so I like to share. This guy, he has a very unfortunate life, struggling, working so hard, and this is again Hindu stories. I'll tell about gods. So one of the gods thought about this man, very struggling in life. The god thought, okay, I'm going to help this man. So the guy takes a path to his work and come back in that same path every day. So the god decided to give him a fortune, bag of money. And on his path, the god put a bag of money on his way. And this guy, walking the same path so many times, for years, he decided, today I'm going to walk closed eyes. And I can make it to my place without even looking at it. So he walked along that path when the bag of money was there. So he kicked it, he didn't open his eyes. He just kept going around and passed by. So the story is sometimes it takes little effort regarding our, how we take care of our mind, just like our body. And if you take before you consume anything, you check the nutritional fact. That should be done for our thoughts as well. Know about them. So effort is very powerful. And in Buddhism, we talk about how you can change karma by effort. Because sometimes we might be born in a very difficult life situation. There was a story about the Sri Lankan, I think, president, not prime minister, president. He was predicted. People, some of the fortune teller told him that his life is short. He's not going to live for too long. And because of that, he went to temple and asked, what can I do about it? And a wise monk gave this president advice, well, aramaropa vanaropa yejana setu karaka. If you establish centers for public well-being, that could extend your longevity, that could extend your lifetime. And he did it. This is not a made-up story. You can look into, his name was Premadas. He established a lot of services for public safety, public well-being, building structures, building water system, all those changes. And he did live longer than what he was predicted. So effort can change our karma. And that's what we should focus on. Being born as human being is very rare. We can make it better if we have an ounce of effort. And effort can come in many forms. Then you can use this 3-month period as your retreat time to put some effort, use some effort to change from what you have now. Whether you have not practiced meditation, maybe this is your time to take that retreat. I'm going to try to practice 5 minutes of loving kindness every day before I start my day, or 5 minutes before I go to sleep. So that takes effort. And in Buddhism, made it very simple. You can use effort in 4 ways. One, anupannanang akusalanang dhammanang anupadaya. You may put effort to not have negative habits or harmful habits that you don't have yet. So you might need to be diligent about it so you don't develop a new habit that is harmful, right? Or you can use effort to remove the one that's already there, bad habit. Let's say you drink too much coffee, or you drink too much other stuff. You consume too much certain food, or you don't practice kindness. You don't practice generosity. Make effort to reduce or to get rid of what you already have, the bad habits. And you can also use effort to bring new habit that is not there, the good ones, like practicing loving kindness every day, practicing generosity, practicing kind words. So that's another thing. We can talk more about loving kindness in a different day, but like Subodhi lead the meditation, it's easy to sit down and silently practice loving kindness. But that's not complete. That's only 1/3 of your loving kindness practice. It should be done in 3 levels, right? It should be done in your mind, which is sitting down and practicing, just like you're going to the gym. You go to the gym, you lift some weight. I don't think you lift weight because you want to lift a bunch of pounds. It is to build your muscles when you need to lift something in your house or control yourself, have that agility. Just like that, sitting down and practicing loving kindness is just one part. It's exercise. That comes handy when you go out. You see that somebody kicked your shoes down the stairs when you step out. I don't want you to lose your mind because it is not acceptable. That's where you apply loving kindness. That's what you be mindful of. I don't want to get mad at somebody who did it or somebody, hit it. So that's where you're using your loving kindness into practice, putting into practice. Or somebody said something mean things to you. Now this is the time to practice kind word. That's a vacha, mettaya vacha kamma. So you're practicing loving kindness through your word and your bodily, practicing loving kindness through your body. So showing that compassion, showing that generosity. So that's where loving kindness becomes complete. Maybe use this 3 months time, like the monks, all the Bantes do. They observe retreat during this time. Use this effort to develop a new habit, the new kusala or wholesome habit that you don't have yet. Or continue to enhance that you already established. That's the fourth way to use effort. And that will help to establish or make it stronger. Perhaps you practice meditation every day. Maybe now you can think of how can I bring some of the precepts, 5 precepts. How can I bring those precepts into my life? How can I practice generosity? How can I practice more meditation, deeper meditation? Read a little bit. So use the time, use effort to establish those habits. And that's how we can make the best out of this human life. And when you think of that, changing your karma through effort, changing your life course through effort, that's where the Buddhism becomes helpful. Otherwise, this is another show. It's another story that it passed by, just like if you think of, I read news articles, none of them stick with me. It's just the hot news, so and so happened, you read about it, you pass by, you forgot not even a day. Within a few hours, you forgot about it. And that's what happens to Buddhism. If we don't bring it into life, we have to bring this into life. And that's why, if you think of the way our mind works, it should be treated as just like you treat your body. Just like the way it's much faster. It needs some help. It needs some guidance. And all the Buddhas, if you collect, there's 28 Buddhas in Theravada teaching. We talk about the 28 Buddhas. All the Buddhas taught the same teaching. Sabba papasa akaranam, not to engage in harmful behaviors. Kusalasa upasampada, establish wholesome behaviors. Sachitta pariyodapana, you have to tame your mind. And this tamed mind can come very handy. It could be more helpful than your best neighbor, your best relative. And it could be harmful too, worse than your enemy. That's the Buddha's teaching there. Your mind is the tool that can be very harmful to you and very helpful to you. And it can go very fast, it travels really fast. So we have to have some principles, some guidelines, so you can catch yourself. And practicing meditation, like the Subodhi led earlier, mindfulness it's practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation in general, it happens in moment to moment. And sometimes, unfortunately, people develop certain ego because of their practice. Now that's a wrong practice. Because I practice X hours of meditation. I have done X years of meditation. If you say that, you can say that. If somebody asks you, that's all right. But if you use that as a bragging right, you have not practiced a minute. That is, you're holding from the wrong side of the snake, right? So mindfulness happens, meditation happens moment to moment. The next moment could be dangerous. Even you're practicing this moment, good meditation. Next moment could be dangerous. So you have to be very careful with this mind. It travels really fast. Within a split second, you can develop strong thoughts toward others, toward yourself. You develop strong thoughts toward others, you might hurt them. Yourself, you might hurt yourself. So that's why you have to be very careful. And I'll end with the story, and I hope you will see, why we have to be careful with our mind, just like we're careful with our food that we eat. There's a story about two neighbors. I'll give a name. Let's say Dan and Joe. They are neighbor across the street, right? It's a couple blocks away. They're neighbors, and Dan needed to borrow a mowing machine, lawn mowing machine. His was broken, so he knew Joe had an extra. So in his mind, like, Joe is a nice neighbor. I'm gonna go ask him to. I'm going to borrow his mowing machine so I can do my yard. He started getting out of his house. Dan started walking to Joe's house. On his walk, he started having this lot of ideas. I don't know if Joe is a nice neighbor. He could be mean. He could say no to me, and I don't know. I've never asked anything from him. So he kept walking now toward Joe's house, and he's getting more thoughts now. What if he says no? What if he doesn't want to borrow his machine? What if he's mean to me? What if he says something hurtful to me? Now he's approaching the house, and he has a lot of, I know for sure Joe's not going to give me his machine. I don't want his machine, so I shouldn't even go. But he arrived. He knocked the door, knock on the door, and Joe came out and greeting, like, good morning. And Dan's like, screw your machine, screw you, Joe. I don't need your machine. You keep it to yourself. And walk back. So, like, Joe's like, what just happened? It's just mind hack. The mind travels really fast, and before even you say something or do something, your mind has created a lot of stories. And believe it or not, your created stories are much, much powerful than what actually happens. We don't know how Joe treats others, but that story was much powerful. And I tell this to my students when I teach. Your anger is harmful. Yes, it's not good. But thinking about your anger itself is very dangerous. Parents, yes, they have certain perception about their children, right? But your perception about parents' perception is more powerful than their actual perception of you. I don't know, a lot of terms there, right? But how you perceive what other people perceive is more true than actual view. So that's why we have to really protect this mind. And Buddha's teaching, you take from anywhere. You take it from Theravada, you take from Mahayana, you take from Vajrayana. All this teaching try to give some tips, some guidance to preserve and protect this mind, because it can be very harmful if you don't protect it well. And in the same Vagga that I mentioned, the chapter is Diso disang yang tang kaira vedi wapan vedina. Just like an enemy who can not stand another enemy, this uncontrolled or untamed mind could be harmful to you. And the other side, the flip side, is mata pita it's slipping. So it's much powerful than, it's much helpful than your own relative, your parents, when mind is well controlled. So that's why I thought to share this. We have this very rare opportunity to be born as human. Yes, karma has influence on us. We can also influence a lot back to karma. We can change the course of our life. But enlightenment is impossible if we were just to go through our karmic results. There's no way. There's no way you can achieve enlightenment. If you think karma as deterministic factor, you will always receive the karmic result. You can alter. And that moment, so going back to, when you try to change, when you train your mind, my meditation is moment to moment, because that each moment you are changing the course of the karmic results. And then in Buddhism, another name, the synonym for enlightenment is destruction of all karma. How is that possible? Well, it's possible when you think of every moment you're trying to not get affected by your past karma. So when you meditate, sit down, you are destroying karma. You are destroying some of the karma that you could have received. Karma has expiration date. It's not forever. And if you avoid the time of its maturity, you win. That's how enlightenment is possible. So every moment you don't let that karma affect you, that's destroying the karma. And karma destroys. As you sit down and even for 1 minute, practice breathing, focus on your breath, watch your mind, be mindful of the wandering mind, you are destroying karma. That's why I said it's not about how long you have practiced. It's about that very moment when you practice, you do it right. And that's how enlightenment becomes possible. Otherwise, if you think, I have to sit down a certain number of hours, this is when I get enlightenment. No, that's a wrong view, wrong misunderstanding about enlightenment. So I hope with some of these stories and thinking of your human life, very precious, no matter how long you have. Some of us have more time, some of us have little time left as humans, but doesn't matter how much you have. Think of how you spend that time and use effort. Think of the Buddha's teaching. You can use effort to bring some of the good habits, bring some of the wholesome habits, and give yourself short time, just like monks. Use this 3 months time as a retreat to practice a skill that you don't have or improve the skill that you already have, which will definitely take us a step closer to enlightenment. Well, so I wish you all, sooner or later, we hope that we can attain the enlightenment with good effort and with good understanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much for a wonderful talk. Do you have any questions?
Yes, Russell, and then.
Yes, I really like what you said about karma has an expiration date, because I look at many of my food and people say, after that expiration date, you cannot consume it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But did you mean by karma has expiration date that you practice, and if you have the right effort, then you go past the expiration date, or the karma is not effective anymore at that point?
Yes, so it's not all of them. So there is a set of karma called garuka karma, say weighty karmas. And in Buddhism, we believe that murdering your parents is considered one of the weightiest karma. That does not go away, and a very extreme consequences for many lives. And hurting monks, dividing monks, hurting the Buddha, creating division in monks, those are considered weighty karmas, or bleeding an arhanta, enlightened one. Those are weighty karma. Beyond that, other karmas do have shorter lifespan. They have shorter lives. I said expiration date because the best way to understand is, think of, we have both. We have good and bad karmas, right? We have done some good deeds, that's why we are enjoying. Russell, you're like, do you mind if I ask, how old are you now? 75. So you have a good, you're healthy to some extent. You can think and ask questions. So you enjoy good life because of good karma. We all have good and some bad karmas. They come, and think of them as two horses, right? When they're running, let's say the good horse and the bad horse, both are running. And when the good horse is running faster, you don't feel the impact of bad horses. But they're both running. That means the karma continue to produce result. You don't feel the impact of it. The other good analogy from the Buddha's teaching is Lona Sutta. It's the analogy of salt. You take a teaspoon of salt, let's say tablespoon, a little more, it's a little more salty. You take a glass of water and mix that tablespoon of salt in that glass of water. You mix it, you drink it, how do you feel? Tasty? No. It's salty, right? It's very salty because the amount of clean water to salt ratio is very low. The clean water was not limited. Now take a big barrel of water. Let's say a big gallon, right? 1 gallon of water. You mix the same amount of salt there. You mix it, you try it. You may taste a little bit, but it's almost, you would not taste salt anymore. Why? Because the content of your good karma is higher. So you don't feel the impact of, it's there. We still have our karma producing results, but you don't feel the impact of it because your good karma is higher, just like the water amount. And I said expiration date because when you think of they both continue to produce result, and when you're enjoying the benefit of good karma, bad karma cannot catch up. It continues to try for an opportunity, and when you don't get the opportunity to receive the result, it dissolves. And that's why in Abhidhamma they call katatta karma. There's a karma that does not produce any result because the time has exceeded. And that's why at the earlier beginning I mentioned, to be born as humans, we should have already surpassed some of the karmic results, right? Let's say some of the karma that we have done may lead to be born as animals, like be consequence as like a, starving or some other consequences, but we have surpassed them. That's why it cannot catch up. In being in the United States, being here in your state or any of us, we don't suffer from starvation because we have plenty of food. So even we have karma to suffer from starvation, because of good karma is higher, you will never receive the result of that bad karma, and it will continue. So yes, it does wait for the opportunity, but it's like a continue to become weaker and weaker and weaker. Eventually, it dissolves. Again, if it doesn't happen, karma has a ongoing, eternal power. Enlightenment is impossible. There's no way to become enlightened. I don't know if I answered the question, Russell.
Yeah, thank you. I'll check the expiration dates and all my actions.
Once you find that, let me know. I'll check mine too. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your buoyant expression of applied Buddhism. Accessible suggestions, making it practicable, which is such a great message of hope, which is good medicine. Because outside here, people are getting messages, oh, it's hopeless, they can't do anything. They need to buy a laundry detergent or a better car, or vote for somebody that can save them. So I applaud your message and the buoyant nature of it. Most people will not try to negotiate Los Angeles traffic by driving with their eyes closed. And your simple suggestion, we can pay attention. We're in the driver's seat. We can drive a life.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and so simply expressed. So I have great gratitude.
Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you.
So first, thank you, Sai. Maybe 2-3 days ago, we were talking about the common concept. I had a questions about, because I know already he is Sri Lankan man, he suicide. So I had a question. I thought the suicide get results of the common concept. So that was my question. So I was talking with him. So anyway, thank you. I really hope you will talk about that topic today. So that time also I got many answers to that question. So I wanted to really say thank you very much.
Thank you, Ade.
Radha?
Yes, Radha.
I'm so glad you talked about karma in the way you did, because people so misunderstand that they think everything is the karma. I say that it's the karma, it's not. And listening to you, I was brought back to a lecture by Reverend Karuna, who said almost the same thing we were saying. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Radha.
For
Yeah.
reminding me.
Yes, thank you.
There are many factors to a life.
Yeah.
There are many factors in a moment. But, the message is that we have the strength to perform an action
Yes,
that is helpful to our life and to other people's lives.
that's correct. Yes. So, thank you, Shraddha. And Bhante Ratanasara asked it because I also talk about mental well-being, right? I teach mental health and I studied Buddhism. I don't find anywhere like dying by suicide is karmic result. It's an accumulation of a lot of stress, a lot of negative, a lot of hopelessness, which is sort of a death of effort. That's what I wanted to talk about, effort. It's a death of effort because people find no way out other than killing themselves or dying by suicide. But human life is so precious. It's unfortunate that a lot of people die. We do lose, I think, the rate of death is, I think, about I forgot the right number, but it's pretty high. It's the 13th unnatural cause of death in the United States. So number 13, so 13th. So a lot of people die, and it's preventable. And when you can, that's why we need to keep in mind. So Bante mentioned about a Sri Lankan person who seemed to do very well in life, who seemed to have everything in place, and also Buddhist influence. Despite all the factors, the person died by suicide. It's not the first story I heard of. And unfortunately, even people, those who are grieving, I don't want them to get a message that like, oh, if it is karma, then it's inevitable. That is not true. You can prevent many things through effort. That you can prevent the course of life. We know a lot of stories. Angulimala, who was a murderer, who's supposed to be killed by some random people because of his deed. His life changed. And we are not even in that position. A lot of people change their life by effort, by choosing the right direction. And that's why, how we perceive things is more powerful than what actually are. That's what I wanted to mention about, our mind perception is very powerful. Like the Joe and Dan story. You make your stories, you fabricate that, you make it so real, and people relive that too many times. People, those who've gone through trauma, a lot of the traumas, it happens once. What makes it harder to let go, harder to live healthy life is because you relive that trauma again and again and again for years. And your self-narration has become so powerful, you are victim of your own story. Yes, you were victimized once, but you re-victimize yourself for many, many, many years, not seeking the right direction. So Buddhism does not believe that people die by suicide because of karma. It's multiple factors involved, but I believe if you really understand Buddhism, it gives you a way out. You don't need to give in to those thoughts. Yes, Anand.
Hi, Sai. Thank you for the talk. I wanted to say that, like you mentioned, people relive the trauma. I know different people that they have a lot of nostalgia. They like to talk about when I was younger, when I had this job, when I drove that car. When I was growing up, whenever I would do something wrong, my dad would always tell me, you're not being mindful. So I tell these people, you're not being mindful. And they know a little bit about Buddhism. And they know that we emphasize like the present moment. So to tell these people, like, what would be a benefit of living in the present moment?
Well, there are many benefits, and I like that you proposed them. And I would start just like validating what they say. So if somebody's living in nostalgia or reliving their past good ones, good memories, sometimes they need to be validated. That means just like saying, I'm so glad you remember those things. That helps them to move on. Or sometimes they share their very unfortunate time, right? Being abused physically, sexually, abused, neglected, went through trauma. Sometimes they need validation. I'm so sorry to hear that you went through those times. So validation can help people to move a step further. A lot of the time people, those who have trauma, they don't want to talk about it. When they do, they're still trying to make sense of what happened to them, why happened to them. And we don't have answers because we weren't there, and we don't know if how much they remember is accurate. So validating is good. And of course, if they are ready, we can propose, practice being in the present,
And how about like on a personal level? If I'm always thinking about, 10 years ago something, is that not being mindful?
Well, it depends on, we all do go to the past, but if you spend too much time in the past, unfortunately, you're missing out the present. You're missing out, let's say you're staying with a bunch of other friends and you're thinking about how good it was and you're daydreaming or gone, not there, you checked out, then you're missing out your presence. So you always feel like little left out or little disconnected. So yes, there should be some limit, and practicing mindfulness and being in the present is the best, because you can enjoy what happens now, what is going on now. And not only that, you can also avoid some of the, like sadness, some of the pain that is related to the past.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add something on the same topic, which is something that has helped me, and it is using additive language and avoiding words like not, but, never. Saying, instead of saying I'm not being mindful, I might say I'm away from mindfulness, or I'm moving towards mindfulness.
Yes,
or
yeah.
something like that. That's just something that's helpful.
Yes.
I wanted to mention it.
Yes, thank you. What's your name?
Evan.
Evan, thank you, Evan. Yes, so that's the asset-based approach, right? I have a friend, and the way the person talks is, most of the time, not always, starts with something bad is about to happen, or it's not going to happen. If you go to the store, like, oh, the store must be closed, right? Or if you were about to drive to the hotel, this has happened. This is like, I took my friend on a trip to the Yosemite, and oh, it must be closed now. It must be snowing there. Like, dude, can you start with, like, what Evan said? Like, we can try. We can go there and see. So sometimes it's the attitude. It's like your way of seeing the world is not very helpful. And that's why I was trying to prime, let's practice this asset-based approach. For children, there's in psychology a principle called dead man principle. You don't want to say people that dead man can't do. Like, if you tell a dead man, don't yell, the dead man will do, because it's dead, right? He's not going to yell. If you tell the person, don't run, the dead man can do that, because it's dead. It's not going to run. So dead man rules doesn't help living people. We need to tell what they can do. Instead of saying don't run, you can say walk slowly. Instead of don't spill, you can tell. This is like when I was doing parenting classes for inmates. So hold with your both hands. Instead of screaming, don't scream, versus like a talk softly. So it's a change, in very simple change in language can make a huge difference for parents, for children, for adults. It's very hopeful, right? When you say, instead of I'm so mindless, versus like I'm working toward being more mindful, right? I'm always angry, like, versus like, I need to learn how to regulate my emotions. I'm practicing being more patient. So that could make a huge difference.
All right, thank you. Yes, we're way over time, but we'll continue. We'll chant pages 4 and 10. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them all. Deluding passions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them all. Dharma gates are limitless. I vow to study them all. Buddha's way is supreme. I vow to attain it. May sufferings one be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and the sick find health relief. When he do konga do ukoka unyate yada do chunga shange aika nama dao. When he do konga du utpoka unyate nyadam du chunga shange aikam tangpa dao when he do kunga do utpoka unyate nyadam du chunga shange aikam tangpa Om Mani Padme Hum. Thank you, everyone. We'll have tea and cookies. Next week, there will be meditation between 10 and 10:45, led by Saboda. Excuse me? And next week, Saboda's going to talk. So we look forward to that as well. May you all have a wonderful week. May you be happy, peaceful, free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.